Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Ambassador of the State of Israel, Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany, Engineer Lionel Fliss, your presence here today is powerful testimony that whatever challenges we face in our world, hope will always prevail. So thank you for coming. Excellencies, distinguished ambassadors, survivor communities, esteemed partners and colleagues, civil society organizations, ladies and gentlemen, today we gather in solemn remembrance. We come together to honor the memory of the 6 million Jews murdered during the Holocaust, one of the darkest chapters in human history. A moment when humanity failed its own values with devastating and immeasurable consequences. We remember their lives, their stories, their families, and the dreams they were denied. We also remember all children, women, and men whose lives were taken simply because of who they were in many parts of the world under different circumstances. This commemoration is not only a tribute to those who perished, it is an urgent reminder of our collective responsibility to protect human dignity, uphold human rights, and resist every form of hatred, discrimination, and dehumanization. Here in Rwanda, remembrance holds a special resonance. The genocide against the Tutsi in 1994 stands as one of the most tragic confirmations that the seeds of hatred, when left unchecked, can grow into unimaginable horror. Though separated by time and geography, the Holocaust and the genocide against the Tutsi are bound by the catastrophic cost of dehumanization and the silence of those who might have acted. Rwanda's remarkable journey has shown the world that remembrance is not only about mourning, it is about rebuilding, reconciliation, and commitment to never again as a lived principle, not as a slogan. This nation reminds us that remembrance must be active, that peace must be built continuously, and that dignity must be defended without exception. As we honor the victims of the Holocaust, we cannot ignore the painful conflicts that shape our world today. We are witnessing grave suffering in many regions, from Ukraine to the Sahel, from Sudan to Haiti. Today, the notion of othering has become normalized in political discourses and electoral processes in many parts of the world. They make it okay to perpetrate violence against people who look, speak, and dress differently from them. Migrants and people of other colors are being portrayed as not deserving of protection under the law, as less than equal to the citizens. Extreme race baiting and dehumanization have suddenly become acceptable in political discourses. At times like this, we need a moral rearmament to reaffirm our common humanity and human solidarity. That is the purpose of commemorating the Holocaust. We remember so that it doesn't happen again. The Holocaust happened because extremist ideology combined with political collapse, institutional power, and social prejudice in a context where moral, legal, and international restraints failed. So the question arises, is our global community today very different from the context that gave rise to the Holocaust? when there is talk of a rupture in our rules-based international order. This should stand as a warning of how genocide can emerge when hatred is normalized, authority is unchecked, and human dignity is denied. We are witnessing deep distress in many parts of the world today. The United Nations mourns the loss of all innocent lives. Every person killed is a profound and irreplaceable loss for humanity. The United Nations continues to call for the protection of civilians, for respect for international humanitarian law, for unrestricted humanitarian access in all conflict contexts and in compliance with international law. These principles apply everywhere, at all times, and for all parties. The United Nations remains committed to supporting every effort towards sustaining peace, justice, and the rights of all people. This is about upholding principles. It is about our shared conviction that peace is possible and that every life has equal worth. The purposes and principles of the United Nations Charter are not optional. All countries have an obligation to uphold them, to settle disputes peacefully, to safeguard the human rights and dignity of all people, to act in conformity with international law. International law is not an a la carte menu. At this moment, when multilateralism is severely tested, when polarization is intensifying, and when misinformation spreads faster than truth, the UN remains guided by its founding purpose: to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war and to act based purely on the UN Charter. The work is difficult, but it is essential. Peace is not an event, it is a process. And even in the midst of global tensions, our commitment must not waver. Today's commemoration calls on each one of us to stand firm against all forms of anti-Semitism, xenophobia, racism, Islamophobia, and discrimination. These are not abstract dangers. They threaten societies, they fracture communities, and if left unchecked, they lead to violence. We must confront denial and distortion wherever they emerge. There is nothing like alternative truth or alternative facts. We must protect the truth because memory is our best shield against repetition. Young people who did not live through these histories must nonetheless be empowered with knowledge, empathy, and critical thinking. They must learn not only what happened, but why it happened, so that they can help build a different future. In Rwanda, we see every day how peace can be nurtured through unity, accountability, and an unwavering commitment to human dignity. This is a message the world urgently needs. The United Nations in Rwanda stands ready to continue partnering with the government, civil society, religious institutions, survivors' organizations, international community, and all communities to uphold the values of remembrance, inclusion, and peace. We must ask ourselves these questions. 1, what role will I play in preventing hatred and violence today? 2, how will I defend the dignity of others? 3, where will I stand when the voices of division and hate grow louder? Because silence, my dear friends, is also a choice. And history has shown us the cost of silence. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we honor the memory of the victims of the Holocaust, and as we carry with us the lessons of the genocide against the Tutsi and the many crises around the world today, let us renew our promise to stand with the vulnerable, to challenge hatred in all its forms, and to build a world where every person can live in safety, dignity, and peace. May the memories of those lost strengthen our resolve. May their stories continue to guide us. And may our actions today and every day reflect our shared commitment to humanity. Barakoze Chiene.